good. And then I also heard like there's some activists from Quebec here and the States. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of strange.
I was one of the first two reporters to enter the exclusion zone to cross the RCMP checkpoint and meet with the blockaders of the Coastal GasLink pipeline, a $6 billion pipeline that is going to be acting as a lifeline to British Columbians and Albertans and Canadians looking for jobs in these tough times. Now, as I approached the encampment with my security detail, I was speaking to the blockader.
What I would suggest is you guys just go and then maybe come back later in midnight.
Could I ask one question before we go? You guys are using tires and gasoline. Is that hypocritical at all, given that you want to stop a pipeline?
No, we're directing you to the hereditary chiefs now, so you can go home.
All right. Now, it was very hard to get up there, to actually get through the exclusion zone. The snow was about 1 meter high in some places, and the truck was getting stuck frequently. And when I finally got there, I was relieved, and I was hoping to speak with some of the blockaders one-on-one. I was disappointed when they wouldn't answer my questions without prior approval, which struck me as a little bit weird. You'd think that they'd want as much media attention as possible to get their message out. They're setting up lethal traps, widowmakers they call them, to kill people who trespass on what they call their land. These widowmakers are trees that will fall on cars indiscriminately, on journalists, on workers for the Coastal GasLink parent company, TC Energy. Now, when I was speaking to the blockaders, requesting for an interview, they left the car and they started speaking amongst themselves. And what was interesting to me was that these weren't the blockaders I was expecting. They weren't local indigenous folk. They were actually white guys. Now, that struck me as a little bit weird. I thought that the whole premise of their blockade was that they were protecting the spiritual land of what they call the Wet'suwet'en Nation. You might remember the story of the Aboriginal artifact that was planted in the snow. These people are trying to strengthen their spiritual ties to the land so that they can stop a pipeline that has judicial approval. There's been an injunction telling these folks to leave, but they won't, saying that this is such an important place to their people. We have been able to identify the individual who is outside my truck window. His name is Jacob Boutwell. He is an anti-pipeline activist from Kenora, Ontario. And guess what? It sounds like his sister is there as well. Now, Kenora is a long hike from Smithers, British Columbia, and I sent him a list of questions asking him how he got there. Did he fly? Did he drive? What is his specific role with the blockade? And did he have any personal involvement with the setting of the Widowmakers? Now, he hasn't responded to me, but I think that we know the answer. He is there to boost their numbers, even though he's not from the spiritual territory of the Wet'suwet'en people. Now, it's not just Jacob and Ilana Boutwell, the siblings, the very well-traveled siblings, by the way. You can't take kayaks to these places. Blockade. There's dozens of people from out of province, from Ann Spice in Alberta to folks from Toronto, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia.
And I also heard like there's some activists from Quebec here and the States. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of strange.
The point is that this First Nation isn't really what they're claiming to be. The Office of the Wet'suwet'en, a company funded by Tides and the Pembina Institute, all this foreign money, they are not the spiritual people that they're leading you on to believe, and that they're leading the mainstream media on to believe. The mainstream media is taking the bait, hook, line, and sinker, of course, but here at The Rebel, we're not buying it. And we're here to expose the people blockading this pipeline and risking the lives of workers, RCMP, and journalists alike. You can go to fakefirstnation.com to see more and pitch into our work. It certainly takes a lot of time, money, and effort to get up to Smithers, British Columbia, but we think providing this other angle that no other media in the country is going to be providing is well worth it. For Rebel News, I'm Keean Bexte. Thank you so much for watching our coverage here behind enemy lines, where the Wet'suwet'en First Nation organization, not a band, is blockading a road that is needed access to by TC Energy to provide a lifeline to Albertans desperately looking for jobs. If you want to support the work that we're doing to expose the other side of the story here at Rebel News, please go to fakefirstnation.com. My security to get out here was $1,500, and that is not even including hotels. We rely on your support to do the work that we're doing here at Rebel News, and we hope you find it valuable. For Rebel News, I'm Keean Bexte.